Q&As come in.
But I won't say, but I can't see the comments.
Yeah, it should.
I got your comments.
But you want to just let her sit there?
Yeah, you can sit here, and it should let you chat.
But they can hear me, right?
Yeah.
There was an echo last time. I think you were in a different room. Alright, so... Alright.
He let you know the whole thing?
Hmm?
Let you know you got it?
Let's see.
If you need, I mean, he's right next door if you need him.
I'm looking to see where the comments come in. For Q&A. I can picture, but you're getting comments from all these different platforms, right?
Am I?
I don't know.
Oh, if it is, yeah. I mean, just
You're on Periscope.
He's right behind you, man. It should be.
Where do I see the comments? Is that possible on there, or should I just do on here from Zoom? I see it.
All right, here we go.
Awesome.
It shouldn't, but it's not letting.
Do you turn your captions on?
You can use your phone
To respond to comments?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
and on top of that, you're on the Zoom call, right? I mean,
Yeah, I'm on it. Daniel, I think you're up. Oh, you can hear.
can't see it. I am. I should be able to hear you, and you should be able to hear me. Uh-oh. I like surprises, though. Oh, wow. I get a contribution. Wow. Wow, wow, wow. That means a lot. I'll try not to get too overly excited, but I mean, I'm super happy, and Lumpkin has been supportive from the time I moved to Forsyth County, so it means a lot. Wow. Well, first and foremost, Devin Pandy, congratulations to you. My good friend Ken Akins, who I believe is on. Ken is on, right? Yeah. So Ken and I have a lot of good stories together, and like I said a few minutes ago, Lumpkin County has been so phenomenal. I've enjoyed being in Lumpkin. I've enjoyed being on the campuses, being at the meetings, being at rallies. And even when we need to shake things up a little bit, I've been very blessed and fortunate to have stood with many of you that are on this call. So I don't feel like I have to do any convincing. I got 62% of the vote in Lumpkin County, and I am so incredibly grateful. And I attribute that to the fact that for so long we stayed active. For many of you that don't know, I ran for the Public Service Commission in 2014. Wasn't able to get the seat then, but I ultimately became the chair of the 7th Congressional District, where we came very close in the last congressional election cycle of electing Carolyn Bordeaux. And Carolyn will get it this year, and will get me to the Public Service Commission. So there's so many opportunities. But what I wanted to share with you, I'll start off by saying the reason why I moved to Forsyth County, Georgia, was because I grew up in Columbus, Georgia. I was recruited to go to Clark Atlanta University, and after being recruited to go to Clark Atlanta, I wanted to start my family in Atlanta, and we decided, based on the schools and based on the opportunities and based on the late Congressman John Lewis, I had a conversation with him, and he said, you can't be where you're comfortable. He said, Democrats can't just win in Atlanta. It's a big state, and we got to be where we need to be, and we have to go where it may be challenging and it may have adversity, but those opportunities are what opened the door for me, and I wouldn't be here if it weren't for the support of people like yourself. We overwhelmingly won the primary, but I want to give credit to John Knoll, who I ran against in the primary. He was a great Democrat who's run and pushed me and challenged me and made me better in my primary. But now it's time for all of us to do what I like to call put all hands on deck. And that includes you, Lumpkin. So for all of you that are listening, I hope that you are not comfortable. I hope that you have not let the fact that Trump and all of his antics, that cannot be your only motivating factor. Devin Pandy needs your support. I need your support. John Ossoff needs your support. We need your support, and we cannot win. Joe Biden cannot win in the state of Georgia if we're not pushing for local elections and if we're not working with counties in the northern part of our state, like Lumpkin and White County and all the counties within the congressional 9th district and in the 7th. So I wanted to open up by just letting you all know that it's critical for us to be able to understand that every single one of us on this call is responsible to make sure that we're connecting with our constituents and with those in our communities, and especially those who may not be as excited. Let's be honest, everyone's not excited about our ticket. We are, and tonight at 9 o'clock, I think a lot more people will be excited. So for the folks that are on the fence, we have got to do our job to motivate them, because we can't afford to have anyone at home. So for those of you that don't know me, my name is Daniel Blackman. As I mentioned earlier, I'm from Columbus. I grew up in Columbus, Georgia. I was born in Boston, Massachusetts. My father joined the military when I was very young. That's how I got to Fort Benning, which is in Muskogee County, and ultimately to Columbus. And I've had an opportunity to live all over this state. I lived in Savannah for a short stint. I lived in Columbus, Georgia, and Atlanta. I lived in Cobb County, and I now live in Forsyth County, where my wife and I plan on raising our family and calling home for a very long time. We like to say we're at the foothills of North Georgia. We're that gateway, we're that entry point. But for those of you that don't know, the history of Forsyth County is not one that has been very welcoming at times to people of color. It was definitely not an area where Democrats ran for office. I was the first African American to run for office in Forsyth County, Georgia, in the history of that county. And I was also the first Democrat to run there in 27 years. So I take it very seriously, the opportunity that we all have to begin to shift the conversation to the northern part of our state and to start winning in places like Lumpkin and Hall and White and Forsyth. That takes the kind of work that we're implementing now. But for those of you that don't know about the Public Service Commission, what you do know is you have a light bill, you have a gas bill. Utilities are extremely critical in the state of Georgia, especially at this time during COVID-19, as we are going through a pandemic, as Georgia has seen some of the highest numbers of unemployment, as we are facing a pandemic where a video was just shown that I believe bothered all of us, that shows students that are acting as if we're not in a public health crisis. And so for me, it's critical and important for us to understand how to connect these positions and the opportunities, since governor and lieutenant governor and secretary of state and attorney general are not on the ballot this year. We need to fundamentally understand the roles that are congressional representatives, state house, state representatives, state senate. Those are going to be extremely critical. The Public Service Commission, for those that don't know, not only regulates utilities, but I have 3 children. My 3 children are doing virtual school, and there are children all over Georgia that unfortunately are having to deal with this new way of living, this new normal. And I hate to quote the term new normal, so I by no means want to use that in a term to, excite folks. But let's be honest, we have more young people that are doing virtual learning. We have more adults that are doing teleworking. And we've got to really understand how this is going to impact and affect our communities as a whole. First and foremost, the majority of counties outside of the metro Atlanta region are very vastly underserved when it comes to wireless broadband. We have too many students and young people that are going to be depending on this, and high-speed internet is just not accessible to everyone. So one of the things that I've decided is going to be really a leading factor in my campaign is making sure that we are connecting our entire state and not leaving one county behind. All of you on this call know we cannot afford to lose a generation because of lack of access to the internet. We also have a tremendous problem where on March 16th, when the governor called for a statewide public health crisis and the pandemic was announced around the country, we saw 2 things that happened at that time. An opportunity for a governor to lead, in which he has failed miserably. But we also saw an opportunity during this time for compassion and empathy to be shown to people around the state of Georgia, specifically low and moderate income families. In the state of Georgia, we have 10.2 million people that call Georgia home. 1.9 million of that number live at or below the poverty level. And as we see the moratoriums on evictions coming up, 23 million Americans stand at risk of being evicted from their homes. And we have to really think and put that into context as it relates to Georgia, seeing that the moratoriums on gas and electric disconnections has already passed. So we are now seeing disconnections coming at elevated rates. We're seeing people, as we go into an extremely hot summer, and we're entering into a season of storms and extreme weather, we're seeing folks that are now struggling because their power's not on. Well, there's a dilemma within that scenario within itself. The first dilemma is, if we're expecting kids to learn from home, how can a kid that doesn't have power in their home get on the internet, let alone access high-speed internet or wireless broadband for them to be able to compete, to learn, and to thrive, so that, again, we're not leaving a generation behind? Also, we have to understand that senior citizens on a fixed income should never have to choose between their medication and their light bill, nor should working families have to choose between keeping their lights on and having food in the refrigerator. This is directly an issue when I think of the Public Service Commission that's not just about environmental justice, which I'll get into. It's not just about doing what's right, which we're talking about now, but it's about making decisions that are fearless in the eyes and in the space of adversity, which is exactly what this year's presidential election is about, which is what you'll hear Michelle Obama, Governor Cuomo, Bernie Sanders, and Mayor Gretchen Whitmer out of Michigan talking about tonight. They're going to talk about the soul of America, and we've left far too many people behind. So let me start off in December of 2019, when the Public Service Commission voted unanimously to raise the base rate for ratepayers around the state of Georgia. What that means is, when a base rate is increased, it doesn't matter if you cut your air conditioning off in the summer, your rate is still either going to stabilize or go up. And the reason why is because your base rate has been increased. Now, I have an EMC, so our EMCs sometimes are a little bit differently impacted, but the challenges are the same because a lot of the decisions at the Public Service Commission that are dictated and made that directly impact Georgia Power and Atlanta Gas and Light also impacts marketers around the state, specifically in areas like where we live. The electric rate and the gas rate both went up. So that's the first place we were hit. Well, then there's coal ash cleanup. And I don't know about you all on this call, but for me, I'd like to keep North Georgia beautiful. I'd like to keep areas like Dahlonega and Lumpkin and Forsyth County and Amicalola Falls and, Lake Lanier. I'd like to keep these areas clean and beautiful. But too many of our counties and too many of our cities have fallen victim to polluted water. As a matter of fact, in Juliet, Georgia, because of coal ash, they are now seeing high levels of lead and mercury in their water. In Monroe County, Georgia, they have found uranium in their well water. And we're now facing a crisis unlike we've seen, where not only has COVID hit and attacked the health and the wellness of many people due to respiratory illness in other areas, but we're now seeing the impact of climate change and also utility regulation as it relates to our health and wellness. What do I mean by this? Well, our Hispanic and our black populations in many of our counties are suffering at health risks and rates that are 3 and 4 times the national average. For example, African American children in the United States, especially in the South, have asthma rates 3 times the national average. Now, this is across the board. Well, that leads to school days missed. It leads to work day missed for adults that struggle and suffer from asthma. But these are issues that have directly gone into why we're seeing higher numbers of COVID in low and moderate income communities and in communities of color because of pre-existing conditions. And some of them, not all of them, can be directly attributed to the air we breathe and the water we drink. So that's very important for us to make those correlations to understand how these are impacting us on a daily basis. Also, speaking about minority communities, 68% of communities of color are in proximity to a coal-fired plant, a fossil fuel burning facility. That's not acceptable by any means. Now, while my position as a public service commissioner will not be able to move the needle on the regulatory part, but we will be able to elect good people to the state house and the state senate that I will be able to work with to make sure that we're holding utility companies accountable and we're making decisions that are enforcing regulations, unlike what we're seeing with the current administration, which has rolled back almost every single regulation that the Obama administration put in place, including the Stream Protection Act. Go figure. Many of the simple things like measuring emissions, mitigating climate change, working to make sure that our water and our air is not polluted. In areas like Savannah, which is in Chatham County, we're seeing high levels of pollution. Why? Because federal funding for testing of our drinking water in Savannah has been defunded. And these are problems that we're not thinking about, which is why the Public Service Commission is so important. Now, I've got some good news for you. The first seat that Republicans flipped in the state of Georgia before they took every single statewide constitutional office was the Public Service Commission. Now, that's not the good news. The good news is that we can do the same thing, and we can begin the trend now in 2020 to set up the next race for governor, lieutenant governor, and all the way down the ballot. There is no other statewide constitutional office on the ballot this year except the Public Service Commission. And guess what? You have an opportunity to get 2 for the price of 1 because there's a gentleman by the name of Robert Bryant who's running in District 1 who I greatly support. He's also an African-American gentleman. And we have a chance, not just because based on race, we got a chance to elect 2 Democrats, 2 good people that are gonna work and that are gonna not be afraid to stand up against the utilities. Now, let's be honest. The utility companies in the state of Georgia, they do provide a lot of jobs, and we appreciate them for that. But the problem is when you see constructions like nuclear plant Vogtle, which is on the border of being a $30 billion project, a $30 billion project that is not only behind schedule, but billions of dollars over budget. And I spoke to the chief financial officer of Georgia Power back in October of last year, and his words to me was that project would take about 60 years to completely pay off. Now, that's your children, their children, and more than likely their children's children. These are decisions that are being made now. My grandfather served as diplomat to the United Nations from Barbados. My mother and father immigrated here. And during his service at the United Nations, he retired as Consul General to New York. They came up with a sustainability goal which said we are well able to meet the needs of the present, without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their own needs. We have compromised the ability because of our dependence on fossil fuels, because of our lack of listening to science, to mitigate climate change, to fight against the disparities that exist. We have failed miserably in protecting the next generation to build a future that they can be proud of. As a matter of fact, there's a quote that says, "We do not inherit the planet from our ancestors, we borrow it from our children." And that's exactly why I'm running for the Public Service Commission, because of a future generation that just wants to have an opportunity to live their lives, to breathe clean air, to drink clean water, and to do the things that we all enjoyed growing up. I don't want my children to grow up in a world where they can't go, they have to wear a mandatory mask, not because of COVID-19, but because of the low availability of air quality. And that's exactly where we're going in cities like Los Angeles and Atlanta and Miami and Washington and Detroit. These are the issues that we're facing because we are not making real investments and making a real commitment to clean energy, which is the next point that I want to go into. What is my plan for clean energy as far as what I'm able to accomplish as a public service commissioner? It's very simple. One, we need to invest more into solar. We've got to invest more into solar. But here's the thing. I talk a lot about low and moderate income communities and families for one very specific reason. Because I believe in what's called energy equity. I believe that accessibility to solar shouldn't be based on your zip code. You know, there are a lot of people in this state, and I'm very thankful for them, but there are a lot of people in this state that can afford a $10,000 or $15,000 solar system on the top of their home. But guess what? There are a lot of renters that can't do that. There are a lot of low and moderate income families that can't do that. Should they be shut out of the solar conversation? Or should we invest in the community solar where we're leveling the playing field and giving opportunities for families, for communities, for small businesses, and for our schools and our churches and our civic organizations to enjoy the benefits of solar? It's very important for me to lift this because you know what? I've seen it done. I'm seeing them do it in Athens, Georgia right now, and they're doing a phenomenal job. I've seen them do it when I traveled to Los Angeles to meet with Mayor Eric Garcetti, and he incentivized landlords to make sure that for their properties that they either weatherized, made energy efficient, or included solar panels. They were given incentives and they were given rebates for making the community cleaner and offering that same opportunity for clean energy to their communities. The next point that I want to cover is very important to me because Georgia, as many of you all know, especially in our rural parts of our state, relies heavily on agriculture. We're not doing a good enough job of working with our farms to implement ideas such as biofuels. We're not doing a good enough job of looking at the opportunities for solar farms. We've got to start working with our landowners, our community areas that are heavily based on agribusiness. We've got to start thinking proactively rather than reactively, and we're leaving, again, I'm going to continue to say this, we're leaving counties behind when we're not including them in our agenda, when we're not including them in our conversations, and when we're not making them a priority. That's why I've made it my priority in my campaign to run a little bit different than Democrats have traditionally run in the last 20 years. And my strategy is from the outside in. And what that means is I don't have an Atlanta or Metro Atlanta-centric campaign. I love Atlanta. We need Fulton and DeKalb and Clayton. We need those counties. We need Henry County. We need Cobb County. But guess what? On the outskirts of our state, there's a very diverse Georgia. I like to call it 5 Georgias, where we have a coastal Georgia, a mountainous Georgia, rural Georgia, we have suburban, and we have the metro Atlanta area. We've got different areas that all need to be supported. That's why I mentioned Devin Pandy's name earlier, because it's very, very important for us to understand the importance of who we're sending to Congress, who we're sending to the state house, and who we're sending to the state to the state senate, because these are individuals that will support the policies that we want to put out there to support a clean energy economy, which brings me to my last point that I want to cover that's a part of our agenda, which is building out a workforce of the future in respect to our labor brothers and sisters that are currently working on projects around the state of Georgia. They're working very hard to make sure that we have safe and reliable power. But let's be honest, right now, many of us we're torn and we're very stuck in a position where the cost overruns, the coal ash cleanup, all these areas are put on the burden of ratepayers. In Mississippi, when they built their most recent coal-fired facility, they built it putting the entirety of the burden on the shareholders of the utility company. Well, guess what Georgia did? When we signed our legislation in 2009, we did the opposite. What we said is we're going to put something on people's bill called nuclear construction cost recovery. What does that mean? That means that you're on the hook. All of us are on the hook for these projects that are so-called, quote-unquote, too big to fail. We're on the hook when fossil fuels contaminate and pollute our waterways. We're on the hook to clean it up, even though it's our children, our spouses, our neighbors, and our communities that are having to drink water that we all know is not healthy and it's not up to standard. So I have a plan to build out in a separate capacity because with the Public Service Commission, to be very clear, I will be a regulator of public utilities. But the problem is we're not looking into the future to work with colleges like the University of North Georgia, to work with technical colleges and historically black colleges to build out a workforce that would reflect an opportunity to grow into the solar jobs and biofuel jobs that I mentioned earlier. And here's the thing. Georgia ranks amongst highest in the nation as it relates to utility bills. As a matter of fact, nationally, it's about 4 to 6% of a person's paycheck that goes to their utility bill. 4 to 6%, okay? In the state of Georgia, we're paying upwards of 18 to 22% of our paychecks to pay for our utility bills. That's unacceptable, and we've got to change that. So I wanted to come to you all today, one, to tell you thank you. For the past 8 years that I've lived in Forsyth County, you all have been my friend to the north, and I've always supported Lumpkin County. I've always supported the people that have led this party, and you've always welcomed me with open arms, and for that, I'm eternally grateful. My family and I appreciate it. But I want you to know that I'm in this race because of you. I'm here because I believe in the opportunities for us to win, and to be quite frank with you, I'm tired of losing. I'm tired of Democrats coming close. I'm tired of us having better messages, and I'm tired of us being put in a position where we're putting out the best candidates, the most qualified candidates, the most articulate, the most educated, the smartest, and most committed candidates, and we're coming close, but we're not getting over the finish line. I believe that this year, not only can we elect Joe Biden and Kamala Harris to be the president and vice president of the United States, but I believe we can turn Georgia blue. I don't say that because we've been saying it for a long time, but if you look at the numbers, we came out in record numbers in the June 9th primary. If June 9th were the general election for my race, you can go look at the numbers, we got 760,000 votes. That's 760,000 votes, coupled with the votes that John Noel got, 300,000. If the general election were on June 9th, I would have won that race by 46,000 votes without a runoff. Let me say it again. I would have won on June 9th if everyone that voted for John Noel, hypothetically speaking, voted for me. I would have gotten over 46,000 more votes than my opponent, and we would have been able to celebrate victoriously without a runoff. We can do that on November 3rd, but I can't do it without you. I need your support. I need to volunteer. If you want to contribute, whatever it is, whatever it takes, we're here to win. Emily Leslie is posting right now in the chat room. She's my communications director. She will be in contact with anyone that wants to volunteer, support, and or contribute. I want to thank you all so much from the bottom of my heart. I greatly appreciate you. I thank you for your support. Thank you for the work you're doing. Let's win in November. I don't know how the questions work, but if anyone has questions, feel free to ask, and I'll answer them to the best of my ability. And I'm not going to be in the way of you hearing Michelle Obama tonight. So you ask your questions, and I'm going to answer them. Yes, ma'am. Yes, it is. As a matter of fact, I'm sad to say this, but Governor DeSantis in Florida is doing a phenomenal job working with the utility companies to make sure that they're leading the way on that, and we can do it in Georgia. And you're absolutely right. We were doing it in Georgia, but what I believe happened was it was heavily lobbied against because there's a fuel tax, and there are other areas that it was cut into, and I don't believe that we had the right folks that understood the opportunity at that time. Many of us in the environmental space understand the importance of it. So what I've called on Georgia Power to do is not only electrify their fleet, but I've asked them to lead the way and to make public and private investments across the state so that we can have charging stations around the state of Georgia that will bring opportunity throughout our state. We can do it. The city of Atlanta is doing, a pretty decent job right now, but we need to make sure, and you hit the nail on the head, if we're not working with state House members and state senators, those are the ones that are going to have to write legislation and work with us collectively to make that happen. It can be done, but we need progressive thinkers, and we need to make sure we're electing the right people in November. But I do support it, and again, Florida worked with their Department of Transportation, their public utility companies, and the governor's office, and they're now actually leading in the South with their electric vehicle deployment. I feel like we should have elevator music right now.
Carolyn says, let's go get Mr. Blackman. I live in Forsyth County and I'm fired up. I don't know who Carolyn is.
Oh man, you put me on the spot now. The Hall County call was really good. I'm gonna try and remember. If you remember, just feel free to chime in and let's figure it out. But yeah, that was.
Roger has a question.
That is correct. Yeah. Well, and here's the thing, I think it's very important for us to know. Robert and I have been actively working together. We're very much committed to winning in November. But one of the things that Robert and I committed to do is breaking up the state into 4 regions: North, East, South, and West. We may even look at a central portion to just talk about Metro Atlanta. But we want to go on tour. We want to go around the state, and we want to do ratepayer schools. We want to, speak to county leaders, and we want to start talking about what the utility process looks like, the rate-making process looks like. I mean, I'm going to be honest with you. I'm more excited about the educational part of the Public Service Commission than I am about, actually just stepping in and standing up against these utility companies. Because, look, we can do that all day, but you need 3 votes to be able to get stuff done at the Public Service Commission. So we want to go around the state and educate folks and just build that momentum, because I'm going to be honest with you, one of the reasons why I think I did so well in the primary is because for the majority of the time, the Public Service Commission is either in a midterm election cycle or it's about 15th on the ballot. So you got to go all the way down the ballot, and you got to get, go through all these races, and then finally Public Service Commission, and most people don't know what the Public Service Commission does. But because this year we've seen a pandemic with COVID-19, folks' power's getting cut off, people can't get on the internet. Georgia, the Public Service Commission, really quickly, the Public Service Commission recently voted to allow the utility companies to recoup what they lost in the past 4 months of COVID-19. While we're struggling and we haven't yet rebounded in our economy, while folks are still waiting for a little, financial support, the utility companies have made a deal to recoup all of their losses. Those are the things that Robert and I be able to educate about and really go around the state and make the Public Service Commission a more friendly and palatable conversation versus something people just don't think they have a part of. Okay, she's going to tell me the question right now. You have the question?
Is it in the Zoom chat?
Is it in the Zoom chat, or can you see it? Because Emily doesn't see it right this second. It might.
The question is, would you be able to convince EMC to move into the 21st century room in regards to solar and wind?
That's a great question. We regulate what is already in place. I would not be able to necessarily push and get the AMCs to do it. But here's what I can do. By trade, I'm somewhat of an impact investor. I work with family offices and financial institutions on strategic investment. It just so happens that I have an affinity for the environment and for climate change mitigation. So what I am willing to do is work on public and private partnerships that alleviates the burden off of the EMCs. Because see, the problem is the EMCs don't want to make the investment. And that's not all of them. Some of them are doing a little bit more than others. But we need to make it more lucrative and attractive. And the way we do that is by one, it's mostly in North Georgia, we have pretty active chambers of commerce. So we need to get with the Chamber of Commerce. We need to look at public and private partnerships and work with individuals that are already putting the infrastructure in place for us to transition into solar. And we need to build a people-led lobby behind it. What's happening is they have these closed-door meetings. They're sitting down behind, closed walls with their buddies, and they're making decisions based on their financial forecast and not on the interests of our community. So the short answer is, yes, I will be able to have influence, but I cannot directly do that in the capacity of my position. But I'll work very hard because I have an EMC. I have Sony EMC in Forsyth County, and it is very critical and important for me to not only advocate for clean energy, but to have those same opportunities in my neighborhood.
Can I throw some in, Daniel? Hold on, I'm gonna unmute.
Emily got that. Text banking.
So, hi, I'm Millie Leslie, and I'm the campaign coordinator for Daniel Blackman. As you've heard, I'm super excited to be on the call with y'all tonight. And yes, we need postcards. We need voter outreach of all kinds. We need everyone to, like I was saying in the chat, everyone brings something unique to the table. So if you're not sure where to start, if you have another skill to offer, or there's a place for everybody in this movement and in this moment and in this campaign. So we encourage anyone, if you have questions, I put my personal number there and my email. Reach out to me, and I'm completely thrilled to go through and talk to each and every one of you, whether you're a first-time volunteer or this is the old hat. I'm thrilled to be able to talk with any of you and find out what best suits you. So that's where we want you, where you can do the most good. And we're here to support you and appreciate your support for this campaign. So please, my line is open to you, and feel free to contact me anytime.
I got good people around me, guys. I mean, come on over. We can win this thing.
Absolutely.
Oh, it's an honor. Well, can I share one more thing, Noah, really quickly? Please make sure, even if you are already volunteering in a capacity for someone, we have an opportunity to, launch a couple of events. And what I can tell you is that we're doing a statewide environmental summit that's coming up in late September or early October. And we have a few new videos and advertising that will be coming out. So if you want to just be on our list to get updates and information, you can also reach out to Leslie about that, and she'll make sure she corresponds. So thank you so much.
Yes, and if you maybe don't want to volunteer yourself, I have to throw this in real quick. You might know somebody, I'm sure you do, civically engaged, your neighbor, your friend, like people who you know you can talk to, and they will get busy with whatever. Reach out to them as well. Tell them why you're excited about this campaign, and let us know what we can do to reach out to them to make sure they know it's worth their time and effort. We're completely willing to do that, and we really want to make sure that reaching out to every single county in Georgia and every person, we want people to know that's our priority. So please, even if you can't volunteer, help us out. If you know somebody, send them our way. We really appreciate it.
What I'll do, Emily will send you the information. I'll give you an address. As a matter of fact, I'll give you a mailing address right now. You ready?
Can we put it in the chat, Daniel?
Yeah, we can put it in the chat. How about that? Marty, can I put it in the chat for you right now? All right, well, let me just give it to you. It's 5030 Blue Sky Lane, and that's Cumming, Georgia, Cumming, 30040. You got it.
What is it? 300 what?
40. Daniel for Georgia. No problem.
It's in there.
Here you go, Emily. You just verify it. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. That means a lot. I appreciate it.
Daniel for Georgia, or Daniel Blackman.
Daniel for Georgia. Well, thank you, Lumpkin County. It means a lot to have your support, and I really mean it. We're going to win in November.
Thank you so much for having us.
Thank you, boss.
I'm going to take that as a compliment.
You look great, Daniel.
I know. I mean, you got to find laughter in these times we're in. So I love and appreciate Devin, and we've had a chance to speak at a few events together, and we're going to get him in there as well.
Absolutely.
I want Devin to show us a picture of himself 6 months ago.
Yeah. Let's see how good he's holding up.
The wear and tear that he's had. I've got the perfect move.
Oh, here we go.
I took a picture of that too. I got a picture of that too.
It's not a deal.
Jimmy, you know that? Yeah.
This is me 6 months ago. Ah, there we are.
Here we go.
Just a little, just a little. All the hair went from the top to the bottom.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, guys. Good to see you.
Thank you. All right. You gotta stop the live stream too. See y'all later.
Bye.
You gotta hit the other screen because I can see it. The two screen in front of you.
Okay.
Trying to get it, but
Huh?
I sat down. I was like, oh shit.
No, that's cool. This is organic, man. We're making it work. Give me a second. I'll give you the key in a second. Oh, I didn't know that. Well, I gotta make sure you got it. Hey, how are you?
Me?
Yeah.
I'm
you.
great. How are you?
Good to see you.
You too.
Oh, sorry, Jamila. This is Daniel Blackman.
Hey, come in the camera. You can wave. Let me
Huh?
say what's up, man.
I'm good.
My cameraman over here is acting shy.
I didn't see you when you just came in. All right, why am I still unmuted talking really loud?
Hey, can you go
Okay.
next door? You need the room the first room is in. Just go tell the thing that we have to end the restream. Nah, the next one over. You gotta go out. And, yeah.
Are you talking to me?
No.
Oh.
Did you end the restream yet? Or are we still good? We
We're still
going?
good. Do you want me to stop it?
Yeah, we need to stop it. It's been real.
All right, it's paused at least. I don't want to stop it if he's got to save it or anything.
It should automatically save.
Okay, so how do I...
He about to come in here.
No, I don't want to save.
I'm really not trying to do all that. They might...
Are you wearing a fan?
I am.
Oh, that's dope. I thought those were headphones.
No, it's a fan.
Oh, that's killer. All right, we done.
Oh,
How'd it go?
I felt really important.